Hi y'all. Okay, so it has been kind of a week. So I guess like really I just can start off by saying like this is legitimately a live trust fall with the universe. I, you know, even after being able to contact and connect with the other side, which, it's not the other side. There's just much higher, bigger dimensions than us. And in the 3D, especially particularly 40 and under, we're just very limited by like our human capabilities, like as far as like the ranges of what we can see, hear, whatever, just to the like complete blind eye, so to speak. But anyway, yes. Now, I mean, having said that, now that like, once you see the other side, like there's no going back. Like, and it's awesome. Like you wouldn't want to do, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But still, it's a blind trust fall because like you get bits and pieces of information and you just have to trust it. And like, it's not like it's like, I know what I know. And I get like, I don't know, certain codes or certain like pieces of information or certain whatever to the puzzle. But there's multiple pieces or there's multiple codes or, however to describe it. But anyway, so it's like, I don't know if in the last, like, the full moon must have brought in new energy of some kind because I feel like I have gotten like downloads, so to speak. I'll go more into that later, but like a lot more like, as I share my journey and my story goes on. But anyway, prior to that, I was feeling very three-dimensional, so to speak. So I was just like having a few down days. So the last couple of days have been like really good, a lot of clarity, like a lot of stuff that even though I've been like, I've been shown more, in kind of more details in clarity of what's to come. But I still am just sitting here thinking like, particularly this week or whatever, like had you shown me this like even 3 weeks ago, I'd been like, oh yeah, okay, like that makes sense somewhat. But now it's like, okay, that makes even less sense having those, details and clarity or whatever on certain things. And I'm like, so now it's like I can relate to it less than I could 3 weeks ago. And I just think like, how are we gonna get from here to there? But that's the thing, like it's genuinely like you just have to trust that you know what you know, which I do. And you just have to stand by it. I like and like I was saying, like prior to that, like I had been like aside from the last couple of days, several days before that, I had just been like struggling and feeling like very three-dimensional, like and I was really frustrated about like certain things. And anyway, and I was being told like I need to get off the fence. Right now I'm like, kind of straddling the fence of, yes, I've surrendered. Yes, I know to trust myself and to trust the universe. But then I still have like kind of that ego, fear, the stuff that I need to finish releasing as part of this process in my healing and everything. And, being on limbo or kind of like teetering, straddling the fence. It's just, you know, it's counterproductive to like my surrender, obviously. And so, and I was kind of stressing, thinking like, I really need to get out of this house. And I want somebody to come in and, like, a Discovery Channel or History Channel or Gaia, or, I don't know, some channel that does ghost stories, or, this would align with this type of story as far as like what's going on between my house and this neighborhood, and who can just like highlight and like put this story like on a platform for it to be told, not related even to me, but this house in this area and what's going on. And again, genuinely, I will happily rent my house to whomever, and I will keep it furnished all. I'll just, take myself, Desmond, some clothes, be on my way. So, offers on the table. But anyway, I was like, that is what, like, what I would like to see happen, as far as like, because I don't want to just like sell it and put it on the market and try to have to figure out who to allow to move into this, and it's like I need to figure out like who, like, wants to buy houses and rent them, and like, or but who could properly manage the situation. So it's like I can't let this fall onto somebody else, but at the same time, I have to move forward. I know it's not healthy and safe or good for me here, and that I need to get out. And so it's like I've kind of just like set a rough timeline of like, okay, in the next month, I'm gonna put it on the, like, the month from now, I'm gonna put it on the market, if I don't know what else to do. And anyway, that was giving me anxiety. And then of course I'm like, oh my God, but then people are gonna be like, oh, that's so embarrassing if I have to like move in with my parents or like a friend or something. But anyway, but then I'm like, I don't care. Like, then I have to remind myself, I personally do not care. Like, I'm at peace with it. My my parents are probably like, don't be at peace with it. But anyway, I am like, I hope that if by me sharing my story, if anyone can learn anything from it, I hope it gives one person the courage to, if they find themselves in the wrong story, to say, okay, whatever, like, release what no longer serves, and do whatever you need to do to move on, which, that is what I'm doing right now. So it's like, I don't know, I get bits and pieces, but I have learned that I have to release control and expectations as to how everything comes to fruition. Like, that is not my role or job or concern to decide. I just have to trust myself and the universe and the process. And obviously I've been struggling with that, but I've got a lot more inner peace the last couple of days about it. And anyway, so my dad, my stepdad, who's dad, and my stepmom, can we just kind of consider this like a warning of maybe we get to hang out more? Not like a warning, but like, I'm gonna plant the seed and just maybe warm up to the idea if you watch my videos. Okay. I will like, okay, whatever. I'll keep things under wrap. Well, I can't promise that, but it won't be like college. It won't be like Christmas break in college. So chalk that up to a win right now, I guess. Anyway, so my point is I'm ready to let all this stuff go. And I know what I know, and I'm in a good place with it. And if my story is going to take me, for the love of God, back to my parents for, I mean, hopefully, like, you know, like 2-3 months, I'm gonna max it out at that or something, like, so be it. I don't care. Like, if I get to be happy the rest of my life, and it versus living a life that's not me, and that I'm miserable with all this stuff and things and whatever that I don't want, and if it's meant, if fate is meant to, that I have to sell my house and put it on the market and just tell somebody like, hey, it's haunted, but you can buy it if you want it, then I'm gonna be at peace with it. So basically, I am releasing like control of how things play out. I just know that they will play out. But I don't know what the road looks like, but you know, between the stuff I've been shown. So it's a blind trust. And anyway, so picking up, I guess, kind of where we were last time. So the beginning of July, I had accepted a new job. Prior to that, I was doing some work, projects here and there for a nonprofit that I worked with for several years with 2 gals I just really enjoy and respect. And anyway, I had accepted a new job toward the beginning of July, and that's about the same time that James had come back and did a second spiritual cleanse and everything of the house. And then it was July 9th that I had texted him asking how to differentiate between aliens and spirits. And then July 9th, and then yeah, so it was kind of like, I guess, mid-July to mid-August is when things, well, mid-July to beginning of September, I would say, is when like kind of the spike really started to go. Some of the stuff that had happened, like, you know, there had been activity on the Ring camera outside, but things were a lot better and calmer on the inside. One of the weird things that was, so at some point, mid-July, Desmond was, he was outside in the backyard at night, before bed, and he, you know, had been out there a while, so I like opened the back door to see what he was doing, and he was like chasing, it looked like if it were a remote control car, but like if it was like a flying object. I could tell it was an object of some sort, but it was dark and it kind of looked more like a shadow. But it was like as if somebody was like remote controlling, I don't know, kids' toys, but like if it was a car that flew, you know, a few feet above the ground. And so anyway, and I'm like, I look outside and he's just like chasing this thing and zigzagging and it's going all over. And sadly, I thought like, well, I didn't walk him today, so exercise. Anyway, so I was just like, well, I'm going to stay inside. I'm not going out there, and I'm just going to hang tight here. So I kind of shut the door back and like just stood there and was like, oh, hurry up and come to the door. Because I was calling him, of course, but like, yeah, I didn't face him. So like a couple of minutes later, he came to the door. I let him in. He walked to his treat cabinet. I was giving him a treat. And as I went to hand him the treat, he looked up at me, and his entire face, head, eyes were covered in stickers, like tiny little stickers matted into all over his nose and head, ears, eyes, and he has hair, not fur, his type of breed, and so he's a wolfhound. Anyway, so yes, it's not quite as easy if he gets into something. It's like untangling human hair. If you get like something in it, like gum, or if you get stickers matted in your egg, it's more difficult at times. And so anyway, they were all like above his like around his eyes and eyelids and like clumped and matted in there to the point of like, I didn't even think I was going to be able to get scissors and get them out. I thought he was going to have to go to the dog ER and be like put under anesthesia type of deal. But I just, you know, started trying to get little clumps out and started working, and, you know, he was kind of in pain and discomfort, and but he allowed me to do it. So like 2.5 hours later, he had quite the haircut for a while, but I had gotten them all out. Clumps and clumps and lumps. Well, anyway, I went the next day out to the yard, to like the kind of the opposite corner of the yard he usually ever is in, where he had been like particularly running around with this flying thing. And I looked because, you know, in all of his time of playing outside and in the yard and whatever else, he's never ever come back with a single sticker. So I was like, and he's been in that bush before, like if he chases a rabbit or a squirrel or something. And so I went over there, looked, did not see any stickers, anything of any sort. And so I'm like, you know, nope, can't explain this once again. And so, anyway, and then there was just kind of stuff that, you know, things kind of hit. Another thing was, another thing was the bat situation. So on July 27th, I was at one of my good friends' her parents' house for, you know, her birthday. We were all swimming and stuff, and we had fallen asleep like later that night, like under a cabana, essentially, like area, like on the outdoor lounge furniture and like, you know, those fans and the TV or whatever. And okay, whatever. So, you know, didn't even think twice of it. Then the next night, so that was a Saturday night, and then the next night was, so Sunday, I was here at my house with Desmond, and in the middle of the night, Desmond, like, I woke up to him like getting off the bed, because I just naturally wake up to that anyway, and like when he gets off the bed, and so anyway, he had gotten off the bed at like, I don't know, sometime between 2 and 4. And I was just like, no, Desmond, come on, please, 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 come back to bed. Like, we are not going outside, because, you know, freaked out of the backyard. And anyway, but like the hallway light was on, and my room, so it like, you know, came into my room. My room was pretty well lit, but I could see him kind of swaying like when he gotten off the bed onto the floor. And so, you know, when I was in the process, I had got up, so I was trying to convince him to get back into bed, and we're not going to go outside. And anyway, he kind of like stumbled into the hallway, and I'm like following him, and I'm like, come on, Des, let's go. And he turns around and looks at me, and his eyes are glossed, and he looks so groggy, like he's almost drugged. And he was like so confused looking, and he was kind of like swaying, like he was on all fours, but just kind of swaying and like really out of sorts. And I'm like, this is weird, but mainly I'm just like, don't make me go outside. I have a weird feeling, and I really don't want to let you out right now. And so I got him back in bed, and I was just like, oh, big relief. We didn't have to save this from the outside. Well, the next morning when I was at work, I looked down, and it looked like I had a bite of some type on my ankle. And I was like, weird. So I like texted my dad, Mark, and a friend, and I was just like, what do you think this is? Like, this is like, you know, I was outside, I fell asleep for a couple hours Saturday night, and I'm like, that's the only time I would have maybe not known where a bite like this mark type deal would have come from. And my dad was just like, well, go to an urgent care, just have them look at it or whatever after work. So I had called a few urgent cares and was just like, hey, like, I think I have like a bite of some type, maybe like a bat bite, because I had like, you know, Googled what different types of random like things look like that it could potentially be. And I was like, you know, is this something you can deal with or whatever? And all three of them were like, no, if it's an urgent care, or no, all three of the urgent cares were like, no, if it's a wild animal bite or a bat bite or of any sorts, they're like, we can't treat that here. You have to go to an ER for rabies vaccinations or, you know, anything like that. We don't have it on stock. And they're like, so save yourself the time, the double copay, like just go to the ER, have them look at it, you know, because that's really what, you know, where you're going to end up with this, you know, a potential situation. So I did that. And anyway, the gal, the doctor was like, she said, you know, there is no way of knowing. If you have no idea what bit you or where this came from, she's like, we can't like take a sample or we can't do a test. Like, you like, you know, basically like there's no way of knowing what bit you if you didn't see anything and can't describe it, except for like, you know, we can Google search, we can whatever, and like, you know, do our best deductive reasoning. And she said, but you know, worst case scenario, she goes, so you're past the 24-hour mark. So this was Monday night that I was there. She's like, you know, you're past the 24-hour mark. She's like, so it's, you know, likely not poisonous or something along those lines. And she said, so, you know, worst case, like it could be a bat or like I can't remember the other things she said that are rabies carriers that could have bit you that would have, you know, been positive for rabies. She's like, you know, so you can either kind of, your options are just like get the rabies vaccination to be safe or go home and move on with your life. And she said, you're here though, you may as well. I was like, yeah, I was like, just like, I was like, my life's weird. I woke up to a bat. I was like, you know, in the last like several weeks at some point, and I was like, and then, and she's like, wait, you woke up to a bat? And I was like, well, yeah, but this was different. And I was like, and I didn't have any marks on me. Or she's like, but you woke up like in your house to a bat? And I said, yeah, I was circling my bed. And she goes, okay, yeah, like her demeanor, her personality, her mindset, everything completely shifted. And she's like, yes, you need to get this thing, like this isn't like optional. And I was like, oh. And I was like, well, the critter people kind of said like maybe I should consider it. And then my family kind of like laughed at me and rolled their eyes when I was like, when I said like I think maybe I need to get a rabies vaccination because there was a bat in my house. And the lesson is, if you wake up to a bat in your house, you get rabies vaccination. Okay, y'all? Like, that is apparently a true fact. You do it. Anyway, so I opted. I was like, oh, all right, well, like we kind of already decided, like, rabies vaccinations it is. And so I got 2 shots that night, like one at the bite wound mark, one in my arm, and then I had to go back for 3 or 4 more over the course of the next month. Okay, so it wasn't until like later, like toward the end of September, where I was at a Reiki master doing a chakra healing for other purposes. And you know, all the days leading up to why I was there for other reasons, were also freaking crazy. Like the bat thing was so far off my mind. Okay. Oh, I skipped a part. So I went home from the ER that night, and I, you know, showered. I was getting in bed, and I, you know, had the lights on in like my room. Like I have a nightstand next to my bed with like a tall lamp and like a big drum shade, whatever. Anyway, so I was, you know, I was like, had just gotten into bed. I was putting my phone on the charger. The light was on and everything. Desmond was on the bed sleeping, like toward the bottom. And I hear this weird noise. And so I just kind of pause and I'm like, well, wonder what this noise is going to be. And then like I kind of like see something like, so if I'm in bed on like the edge of my bed and my nightstand's to my right with like the big tall lamp, like hear this noise, whatever, and then I kind of like see something like out of like this corner of my eye over here, like a little like movement of some sort. And I'm like, and I like look, and in the drum shade there is like then like this, like it looks like, you know, what the size of a bat would be, like up inside the drum shade, like and I'm like, oh my God. So, you know, I get Desmond, get in the car, go to a friend's. I'm up all night, wait for it to call Critter again the next day to say, oh my God, there is another bat that is there. And on like, the way out of my bedroom, I had like shut the door, put a towel under the door, because, you know, I learned you want to keep the bat or wild animals or whatever you may be in your house or haunting you or whatever it may be. You want to keep them contained to a room. It makes it easier for the critter people. Okay, so I shut the door, put the thing under as I'm grabbing Desmond and getting in the car and leaving. So the next day I meet Critter Ritter back here, or Critter Control, Critter Ritter, something. Anyway, and they take my room apart. I'm talking the mattress comes off the bed, like all the drawers of the dressers, even the dirty clothes inside of a closed closet. Like everything was taken out and went through, and there was no bat. And then they looked all throughout the rest of the house, no bat. And at that point, it's like, well, I for sure heard the same similar sound as I did that first night. And I for sure saw what I saw next to me on the, like inside the lampshade that looked to be like the size of a bat, or of a, you know, an object that's kind of like square. I mean, like, no question. And so I'm like, oh, and he's like, you know, so just keep, you know, they had gone through and looked through the rest of the house. And he's like, keep the doors open, keep stuff open, like closet doors and stuff. And they're like, you know, call us. Like, he's like, here is my cell phone number. Like, you know, it doesn't matter, like at any hour. He's like, call if this thing reappears, and, you know, we will come get it. Because, you know, I just was handling everything really well at that point. Anyway, well, no, it didn't appear it never appeared again. So it wasn't until later in September when I was at the Reiki thing, getting a chakra healing done, and they were like, the guy was like, he said, oh, I had asked him, I was like, okay, so, you know, what's going on with me? After he, you know, checked my chakras. And he said, one of the things was, he's like, well, you had an alien tag on your ankle. I removed that. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but I removed it. And I was like, okay, I just finished my 4th rabies vaccination or whatever it was. And I was like, a couple weeks ago, or yeah, whatever. I mean, sometime in that time frame. And I was like, it was an alien tag? And he goes, yeah. Anyway, so it was like that. You know how I kind of said like was more activity on the Ring camera outside, but not inside, and I like wasn't as scared of the alien stuff for some reason. And then that tag, and then, you know, between mid-July and the beginning of September, like more weird things like it had started to pick up inside the house, and then also simultaneously and unrelated weird stuff was happening to me. So as far as me, like that kind of like the thing I said about my home planet, like feeling like something tragic happened to so many people I love, and I couldn't describe that. I was visiting my grandparents who live 5 hours away, and we were at a family friend's house, and there were 2 dogs next door chained up outside, like one to a like laundry pole or whatever. Well, I don't know what that's called. Clothesline or a pole or whatever, and then one to the deck. But they didn't have food, water. It was so hot out, middle of August, and like I could like feel their sadness, feel how untaken care of they like, and I'm like starting to cry. Like I had to get the car keys and go sit in the car, and I was like sobbing. And then like when my sister came into the car when we were ready to when she was ready to leave, and she's like what's the deal? What is the deal? And I was like, I don't know. I can feel the dog's thoughts and like what's happening in their emotions, and I'm like, I don't even know, but like my heart's in a million pieces. And even like prior to that, like I don't know, like 6 months prior to that, I had gone to see my grandparents, and I was like on there, like there was at some point on a 1-lane highway, and I was stuck behind 2 semis full of like, I I don't know the formal term, but like where they had put pigs in it to take them to get slaughtered. And I'm like behind these two semis of beings, of pigs, and I'm just like sobbing, like, and I can't get a grip. Like, I can feel the pain, the fear, the scaredness, the like hurt, like, and I'm just like sobbing, and I'm stuck behind these trucks for like 30 minutes. And by the time I got to my grandparents' house, I was like sitting in the driveway and just was like trying to get it together. But I was like I don't even know if I'm gonna be like okay after this experience. And so there had just been weirder and weirder stuff that had started to happen to me. And then, you know, around mid-July again is when activity started to pick up inside the house, where like I would be, if I was in like the basement, the lower level, like I could hear doors slamming upstairs, and like clear as day, no mistaking it, not a car outside, nothing. I mean, you know, I was a real treat at 16 or 13. I'm not sure which I took the cake at, but I know what a door slamming sounds like. Slamming doors. And then it was kind of more of like the breaching, like the physical realm. So like the more the stuff of like if somebody was getting slammed into my blinds, and then waking up to my phone being off with the lock screen, like, or the home button pressed in. It was just like more and more stuff like that. Like okay, one time Desmond, before I was getting ready to travel, Desmond was gone, and I was in the living room on my computer doing some work, and the TV was off, there was no noise, and nothing else was on in the house, and it was like somebody like loudly burped, clear as day. And I'm like, I like look up at first, because Desmond had just left earlier that day, but I looked up to be like, oh, Des. And then I'm like, oh my God, he's not even here. Oh my God. And then it's just like all the like the stuff that was like, okay, why is this like transitioning into like whatever this like haunting freakiness is? And even though it was a different feeling than when the kind of the demonic presence energy was in the house, it was still like, okay, spirits or not, the fact that it's like coming into, it's manifesting more physically into the 3D version, so to speak, of where I am seeing and hearing it happen, like it really sent me for a loop. And then I'd come home, I'd go for lunch to let Desmond out at certain times, and like I could smell cigarettes in the house. Like it smelled like somebody had been in my house smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, weird. And it was just like, it was just more stuff, you know, and I'm just like, I wasn't okay with it. So at that point, I texted Melissa again, and that was August 21st. And I had said like, hey, like things are, you know, getting weird things are happening to me. You know, I need to know kind of if I need to move. I said, there's a guy in the living room who messes with Desmond, I think. And I said, and that bothers me. And like, I'm like, you know, even when the house was like real freaky from the demonic stuff, he never like acted like, he didn't act as messed with. Like on a kind of like something was like, he didn't act as bothered. Even though it was like straight bad, like in the house. And so I'm like, I just want to know, like, that heavy feeling isn't here, but like there's weirdness happening. And I was like, and I want to know like whatever this guy in the living room, what he's doing here. Do I need to move? Like, you know, what do I need to do with the situation for the time being? And she had said, you know, she had agreed to come back September 2nd. And so like the date that worked for both of us, the soonest date. And she said, you know, but if you're just needing to know if you want to move, if you just, you know, I believe in full transparency. And if it's just about moving, yes, you need to move. She's like, I'm getting more of a read on things. It's not good for you. It's a weird situation. You should not be there. And she said, and I said, okay, well, you know, noted. But you know, at that point, August 21st, September 2nd, I was like, let's survive, the next 10 days or whatever, and, see what we figure out when you're here. And so when she came that day, she had said, we were sitting at the kitchen table, and she was like, reading the situation or reading the activity in the house, and she said he's not wanting to, like the guy on the couch, like he's not wanting to show himself to me. He's keeps kind of like turning his back, hiding, whatever. So we were just like making small talk, like you're not, or like trying to. I was asking her other questions for the time being, and just to kind of give that some time to come more to light. Well, just a few minutes in, like to us just chatting about some other stuff, she goes, hold on, something's coming through really strong. And she said, hold on, something's coming through really strong. She like put her head down and closed her eyes, and then like 10, 15 seconds later, she looked up at me, and with kind of just like this like awe look on her face, and just kind of was like kind of smiling, kind of shaking her head, just like looking at me. And I was like, what? And she goes, you're the medium. And I was like, no, like, what does that even mean? And she goes, you're the medium. Everything is here because they need to tell their story to you. And I'm like, yeah, well, hate to break it to you, but I can't talk to dead people, or I would already have clarity on the situation. Anyway, and then she goes, and she was kind of like, you could just tell like messages were coming into her, because she was like, and that's why in the backyard, everything was flocking. She's like, I thought they were flocking to James and I being here, but it was all flocking to you. And at the time, in my mind, I was just kind of like, yeah, and is that why the people like kissing on a different porch wanted to come talk to me who had nothing to do with this? Like anyway, and so, but I'm at the time, I'm still like, I was just really frustrated, because I was like, okay, well, clearly I can't talk to anybody. And I said, and she goes, she said, well, can you see the guy, the 28-year-old male in the chair sitting next to you? And I said, no, or I wouldn't be acting casual. No. And I said, thank you for letting me know that. Now I'm just like, kind of started to put myself in a tailspin. And she goes, Grace, are you sure? And I was like, I would say completely positive. I'm like, I can't see anything with my eyes. I don't hear anything in my head. Like, I think I would know if I knew that there was an invisible person sitting next to me. And I was like, I had known there was something in the kitchen, but like it didn't really bother me. But anyway, she was like, she confirmed a few minutes later, like, yeah, you don't need to worry about the situation. And really, like, in the scheme of everything that was happening to me, as weird as that sounds, that was like not even a concern. And so to me either. And I was like, and she goes, well, if you can't communicate, how did you know there was a guy who sat on the corner of your couch who messed with Desmond? And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, so you have no, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, at that moment, I kind of realized, holy shit, how did I know that there was a male in my living room who sat on the corner of the couch who messed with Desmond? Sure, it would be like if somebody living my situation, like, it was kind of like in that moment, I'm like, okay, like, it would make sense if I knew there was like something that seemed to mess with Desmond, but how did I know it was a male who sat in the corner of the couch? I was like literally equally as mind blown in that moment. I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea how I know that. And so she was kind of like, anyway, and I said, and the guy, like the 32-year-old named John who sat on the corner of the couch, who was like refusing to like talk, tell a story to anyone but me, I said, Melissa, you are just gonna have to tell him that if he wants any form of story told, he's gonna have to tell you, and you're gonna have to relay it to me if he wants the message to be delivered, because I can't talk to him and I'm not willing to regardless. And so eventually we got to the point of, okay, everyone was playing ball. And he's 32-year-old. He had a bunch of businesses, and he had a fancy navy suit on, and he was on his way like to having big success, but he died suddenly, and he was like really upset and unhappy about dying, and so he like never actually like got to make it big. And anyway, well, he just kept wanting to, well, one of the things was he just kept wanting to talk about finances, which in hindsight is kind of funny given my circumstances of, I don't know, but at the time I like wasn't even like really taking notes or anything like as far as like the finance comments went, because that had nothing to do with the freak show in my house. Like I wasn't not concerned about anything financial, just except getting this stuff under control. So anyway, but he was saying that like I need, like, he's here so I do not repeat any past mistakes, and I need to look to past lessons so that I don't repeat them, and I need to come into my abilities, and I'm letting life happen to me. Like I'm just like being a ping pong ball. Like I'm just like, you know, trying to play this game that I don't belong in. Like I'm just like letting life happen to me and not for me. And like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, and I need to stop repeating past mistakes. And anyway, and that she had said that he was there as a litmus test, and I didn't know what that meant at the time, and I didn't even know that she said that until when initially she had got there. What we were talking about when he wasn't playing ball in the very beginning of the first few minutes of us sitting down at the table was that this area of my house that my house is in, this whole area, it's controlled by like black magic, so to speak, and like low-level beings and things nobody should have to deal with. And even if you're not dealing with them, you're dealing with them. You just may not know it yet in certain areas. But that you know, the house kind of in this like alternate in between, like it's kind of in between two realities. And the guy, the John, 32-year-old from the couch, later that she put together was, you know, he was here because of the land. Like he was stuck here because of this land that's in transition, but that he was at my house, not leaving, invested in communicating a message to me, which was about not repeating past mistakes, coming into my abilities, like needing to take life by the reins and do what I'm like supposed to do and not be fearful and whatever. And then Melissa's guides were saying like, I just like, kept saying like, I need to trust myself, trust my intuition. And I was asking her questions like, you know, what do they mean I'm the medium, or what do they mean whatever. And oh, and another thing is that kind of like in all the weird stuff that was happening to me with emotions and stuff that had come into me prior to Melissa being here that second time, beginning of September, was it was like the beginning of August. I had started to watch like this show on Gaia that had like kind of found me through a Prime Video. Like I don't know, it just something like compelled me to click on it and watch a few episodes that just like led to more, and sign up for a free trial, like so that I could even like, you know, get to them episodes in the first place. Well, cosmic disclosure. But anyway, it was like several episodes in, but it was like whatever, like related to it was somewhere between like the first and third season where they talked about blue avians and the inner earth people, and it like triggered, it was like, I don't if it was a sentence, if it was a sentence or what it was, but basically it was like, it was a trigger, like it like released kind of like it opened floodgates to all this information coming into me, and it felt like a download, but it more so was like it was a trigger. Like in that moment I knew like I was watching it, and it was like they said a sentence, and they talked about a scenario, and it was just like poof, like something lifted, and like, yeah, it just opened the floodgate to the memories coming back. And so like that was kind of part of the reason I said to Melissa about coming on, like there's some like weird galactic type stuff happening with me that I don't even know how to ask the question. But like, come here and do a reading and just help me. Anyway, and so, I was at that point when I was asking her, I was like, okay, so you're saying I'm the medium, like I need to move, whatever else. And I'm like, somebody's here as a litmus test, whatever that is. And I'm like, what is the galactic stuff? Like, why do I feel like I have these codes that I don't know? Like, it's like, I just feel like higher beings, good and bad, know that I have like these codes that I don't know what the codes are. I don't know what it is, but I just like, I know what I know and I can't describe it, but like, tell me where to go from here to do what I'm supposed to with this, whatever I know. And she was like, I'm not familiar with like, what I was calling galactic or whatever. She said, so she's like, that is not my area of communication. And then there were several things I asked her, as I was getting into after she had said, like, you know what you know, you gotta trust your intuition. She's like, I'm hearing from my guides. I think some of them were the archangels for her reading, but anyway, that you already know. She said, you already know all the answers. You know what the codes are. You know what to do. She goes, that is what I just continue to hear from everybody. And at that point, we played that game for a little bit longer, and yeah, it left with like, after an hour, like I went to walk her to the front door and, to say bye or whatever. And she said, I'll follow up with you and check in and see how you're doing. And she said, I am just really looking forward to, following your story, to following your story. And I said, what? Like, what story? And she said, yeah, she said, I'm looking forward, like, I'm looking forward to following you. And she was like, genuine and smiling, and I'm just sitting there like shaking my head like, this was not helpful. Okay. And she had kept saying like, part of it, she goes, your purpose for these abilities, your purpose for all of this, it's to speak the truth. It's to share the truth, and to speak the truth, to tell the truth. Anyway, and she said, and like, that is why you have these abilities. That's what's happening. And that was the only clarity after all the other channel messages about, I know what to do, I need to trust myself, I need to, yada, 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 that I already have all the answers. And it was just that I have this, and this is, yes, because it's to tell the truth. And anyway, I was like, well, I believe in transparency. I'm a very honest person, like, whatever. But I'm like, that is, not making any sense. And that she had said that she was here just to deliver the message that things were going to go full send. And she did a tarot card reading too. She goes, I really wanted to do this with you the first time, she said, but then there was just so much stuff to sort through, and you know, we were here so long, and like she said, there was just no way. She said, you know, so she had like, I think pulled 3 tarot cards or whatever, and what they were was what, like, it was basically like, I have these abilities that are coming on so strong that I'm supposed to use like a creative goddess, something, wands, like all this stuff of like, all of these abilities and all this stuff is coming on way quicker than I'm comfortable with, than I'm okay with, but that I'm actually, to tell me like I am ready, like I will know what to do, not to be scared, to step into what I'm supposed to be doing. And she had said, like, you know, the only person like I can compare this to, she said some medium name, which I don't to this day, besides I think there's a Tyler somebody on E, I think I've seen an episode. I could not tell you, and at that point that day, Melissa, my friend Melissa, I could not tell you one other medium's name. I would not even know if somebody said I had to find a medium, I'd say like, okay, well, we should Google. Like, you know, so it's like, anyway, but she said some medium's name who I guess is kind of famous. I need to follow up with her. I should ask her that, just for fun knowledge now. Anyway, she said, but this gal, she said, she said it was similar to when her abilities came on. She thought she had like lost her mind and like kind of went underground for a year, so to speak. And I'm like, no, like, you know, I'm just sitting there and thinking and I don't even know if I said that loud or not, but in my mind, I'm just like, I have been underground, basically, what feels like, for a year, given my like situation. Like I cannot afford, I refuse, I will not make it, I will not survive if I go underground. Like if I have to, like if something comes on to the point of I think I've lost it, that will just be the end. Anyway, and she said, you know, don't fight it. She said, like, the messages like she was getting from her guides were not to fight it, learn how to navigate it, I'll know what to do, to trust myself, on and on and on. And trying to think if there was anything else. Anyway, but yeah, and so yeah, then I was walking her out. She said that thing about following my story, and I'm just like, you know, in my mind. And then there were some other things between the end of July and the beginning of September, prior to Melissa being here. There were some other encounters, and hopefully I'll be able to like share more details later, but for now I will just say there were a couple encounters between end of July and beginning of September that also triggered a flood of memories. And unlike the series that triggered like remembering about all this like galactic knowledge that I knew that I couldn't describe, these other encounters triggered my memories. And it was like as if, so there's like activation codes, or DNA activation. I will get into all, this is the stuff I love talking about, but I will get into all this and tell you about it in future episodes and videos and stuff. But anyway, there's like DNA activation codes or like activation codes. Anyway, and that had happened to me. And at some point I like had, it was the same concept where it's like all this stuff was flooding into me, but it was my memories, and I have just never obviously experienced anything like this where yes, it was as if it was like you know, once these encounters took place, it was as if somebody, like if you had like, let's say like a bunch of like filters like in front of you. And they were like, you know, kind of foggy or blurred or whatever. But it's like you had these like filters in your mind that were like blockades. And it's like then once this like activation code or once like it, whatever, it like triggers the release of it, or the remembering or how, you know, depending on what I've experienced it in different ways, but it was as if these filters start like being lifted from in front of my eyes or out of my memory or whatever. And it was like, in this case, all of my personal directly related to me memories coming in, like flooding in. It was like, whoa. And so that's kind of like what activated my third eye. And yes, so when Melissa left, and that was prior to her, like I didn't really understand it. That had happened prior to her being here, but I didn't really understand it. I kind of knew, but then I kind of didn't, and I didn't have any words to put to or way to describe what was happening to me. And anyway, and so when she left, and I was just like, okay, well, good. I don't have to be like scared of like, oh, and she had said the guy from the 1920s who originally was attached to me, and the little girl, Edith, who was obsessed with Desmond, 8-year-old Edith, that they both were still around. And they still kind of came and went. Now, it was a cigarette smell in my house, and I'm just like, oh, God. So, you know, it's like I found out I lived in a freak show, that I should move, and that I would never have, like, if I'm at 30% peace here, my goal would be to move and have, like, the goal for me is, like, given the house and the circumstances, and then you put me in here, I have 30% peace. So the goal is for me to move somewhere where I have 70% peace, where it's not a high traffic area, it's not this limbo reality that's being controlled. My goal is 70% peace, and that is my goal. So, you know, I needed to move. The freak guy was still lingering, and the guy on the couch was here to help, and he would, once I raised my vibration and I passed my test, he would leave. I have not passed my test yet, though, apparently. Anyway, and she was very looking forward to following my story. And I'm just like, and she didn't know anything about the galactic stuff. And I was like, that wasn't her realm. And I'm like, you know, okay, so the person who's on the couch isn't going to murder me, but now I just have way more questions. Well, anyway, I had already told a good friend that I would stay at her place. So starting that next night, the very next night, I had already told her I would stay at her place for a week while she traveled and watch her kitten. So I would just like to say it was the very next day of Melissa delivering the message that these abilities are going to come on so strong, and that I just needed to remain calm and learn how to control them. It started. And that's really when it took off. Hasn't slowed down. So, this is a record, almost in an hour. I don't even know if there's any, I applaud anyone who's crazy enough to even like watch these videos for an hour. But, and I also just really want to say thank you to like the handful of few people who have reached out, who have had the courage to just be like, thank you for sharing this. Like people who like I don't know or I don't really know who have sent me messages, like thank you for having the courage to do that, because like I said at the very beginning of this, it is not easy to put myself like on blast and to share my story and to talk about stuff that you are like, it's taken me this long. Living with it around the clock, day in and day out for the past couple years. Like, to come to terms with it and talk about it and hope that I can help somebody else not feel like that they're crazy, who might be going through this. Like, thank you for those of you that have. It actually means the world to me. Okay, next time we're not going to do any more videos this long. I'm going to break them up into segments like I initially had done at the start of this whole episodes or whatever. And so I promise to keep them more condensed and specific from here on out. I just trying to get through kind of like all the different mediums and everything that was happening to me, what was said to me, like how I got to the point where I can talk to you about the meridians and the quantum energy grids and the different species of beings and raising the planet from 3D to 5D and, you know, all the stuff that I just like love. DNA activation codes, like soul contracts, like just so many things that I'm just like, I love. So, okay. Bye, y'all.